just win the day. Just focus on today from a space of like long-term satisfaction. That little thing is gonna get you from good to great, from great to legendary.
How does somebody start on this journey of, self-improvement, self-fulfillment, and those kinds of things? Welcome to another episode of the Wealthy Business Podcast. I'm your host, Javi Chavez, COO of 5, 7 to 8 figure companies with Ryan Pineda. Today, I'm with Tanya Oliver. So she is an entrepreneur, coach, helps people unlock more out of themselves to operate at peak performance. She's got a book coming out too, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But welcome. Happy to have you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's great. So tell me a little bit more about what got you here, a little bit more about what you do, and then we'll get a little bit deeper into the nitty gritty.
What got me here to Vegas? That was you.
Yeah.
But what got me to choose the career that I chose was just wanting to look, feel, and be my best self mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And I dabbled into a lot of things. I came from a space of addiction. I also was an athlete, a high-performing athlete. I played 9 years of ice hockey.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And it really kept me focused through a lot of stuff. But after that, I got into addiction. I was lost for a long time and I didn't really have strong leadership in my life. And so I was just constantly on this journey of like, I know there's more. Have you ever felt like you're like, I know that I'm not tapped into my potential. And
I feel that today.
Yeah, right. And as an athlete, there wasn't really a lot of space for women to go. And so I was always playing on the guys' teams and the coaches would always believe in me. And they're like, you have so much potential. And there just got to a point where I was just sick of hearing that. I'm like, what does that mean to be tapped into that full potential? And then I realized like, it's not just about the physical world. There's so much that hasn't been unlocked in the mental, the emotional, and then the spiritual. So I just was on this journey of self-discovery and just wanting to become my best self. And I wanted to, at that point, like after college, I really became a liability to myself. And I was always angry. I know today you're like, what? You're the nicest person ever. You've got good juju, but I was just, my brain is very practical. I'm like, what are the practical things? Everybody talks about concepts. So I believe that when you seek out truth will also find you. You know, what you seek is also seeking you. And so I was suicidal at one point. I didn't want to be here. And then I really decided like, okay, if I'm going to be here, I'm going to do it right. And I'm going to live life on purpose. So that's kind of everything in a...
Yeah. So, I mean, you mentioned a lot there, but I want to unpack, how do you go from, not feeling great, being suicidal, to then making that decision? What did that look like?
I mean, it was a journey. So I think anybody that's struggling with mental health or anybody that's struggling with their self-worth or their confidence, is one thing that always stuck with me was like, just figure out what the next step is and execute on the next step. And if you've ever come from addiction or worked with people that in it, their biggest level of success is like, just win the day. Just focus on today and figure out how to just feel good today. Not from instant gratification, but from a space of like long-term satisfaction.
Got it. So, and how long, I'm sure people who struggle with addiction always struggle, with it, but like how long did it take you to really start feeling good and like having some momentum to continue and not really feel like, and again, I could be totally wrong where you might still struggle with it today, but.
Well, I'm like cellularly. So here's the thing. There's a lot of people and I love our industries. Yeah. I love the real estate space. I love the MLM space. I love people. I love building into people, but entrepreneurs for the most part are functional addicts. And what people don't understand, it's not always from a space of substance abuse. It can also be an emotional addiction. You could be addicted to operating from a space of busyness. And when you take a time to just like meditate or go work out, you have that guilt that you should be somewhere else. You're shaking your head. So you know what I mean? And that's why a lot of people put themselves on the back burner. So I want to make it clear that addiction isn't always in the space of substances. It's the most recognized, but a lot of high-end achievers are for the most part, functional addicts or on prescription medication and can't operate without their ADHD meds or their Xanax or their sleeping pills or their gummies or their
whatever it is.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I feel like, entrepreneurs, they're addicted to success sometimes too. And so when you operate at such a high level, I feel like in your job or whatever, then you need you feel like you need some other high level substance over here to kind of offset it. Yeah. It's just at least what I've seen with a lot of other entrepreneurs where, they work really hard and they also might party really hard, or they might drink a lot to offset the stress. So
I love where this is going.
Yeah, this is going to be fun.
So what you're talking about is external success.
Yes.
Where there's a disconnect is people have, and it's not taught. So it's nobody's, I forget who says a quote. Maybe somebody can put it in the, I don't know.
Comments or whatever.
Comments, yeah. I'm chat box to put it in the comments as far as who said, but it's not your fault that you don't know, but once you know better, do better. And so a lot of success is taught from the external. If you think about goal setting, it's what type of car do you want to drive? What type of house do you want? How much money do you want in the bank? What type of relationship? What do you want? Who's your soulmate? But nobody talks about, when you achieve that, how do you expect to feel? We strive for things outside of ourselves because we believe that it's going to create some type of harmony within ourselves, whether it being peace or health or feeling good or clarity,
Totally.
And so when you understand there's intrinsic success and there's extrinsic success. And when you're chasing things outside of yourself, that's what creates the disconnect versus the harmony. And the goal is to get clear on how you want to feel or how you think you're going to feel when you reach those heightened levels of success and create this synergy between the two.
Got it. And that's the same reason why we kind of created The Wealthy Way too, or Ryan created The Wealthy Way, is because there's so many entrepreneurs and very successful people who aren't as happy internally because they think, my next deal, I'm going to feel a certain type of way. The next time I get that car, I'm going to feel a certain type of way. But if you don't take care of your relationships, you don't take care of your health, you don't take care of things that truly matter, that material object is only going to give you so much satisfaction for so long, right?
Yeah.
I buy a nice car and I'm sitting in it and then I'm like, now what?
Yeah. What's next?
Exactly. Yes. Because what's the next thing that's going to make me feel better? What is it the house? Is it what? But it truly isn't. It's going to be you feeling fulfilled internally.
Yeah.
So how does somebody start on this journey of, self-improvement, self-fulfillment and those kinds of things?
There's so many steps. I have a year curriculum on it to ask that question.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
I mean, the way that I teach is getting back to the foundation, and people need to remember that we are the foundation. And everything outside of us is just an external expression of what we're internally suppressing. Everything is a mirror, and we have to learn how to create how we want to feel and embody that in the today. And in yoga practice, they always say the time is now. And maybe your big vision and your big goals are going to be a 3-year thing, but you can still tap into feeling the way that you want to feel today and start to take actionable steps to achieve that. And getting back to everything is the extension of you. Learning how to really take care of yourself and building structure for yourself as far as getting yourself right mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Those are the 4 pillars of human performance. And you and I were talking earlier that if you're trying to build the skyrise and the foundation and the framework is not solid AF, eventually you keep building and adding things on your plate. And entrepreneurship, they call it the burnout, or, a panic attack, or I had a client the other day, she's I had her pull over, she's having a panic attack. So we had to do some breath work, primal screaming. It's amazing. It works wonders. So stop popping pills, just scream, scream in the car.
There it is. That's the prescription from now on.
Primal screaming, look it up. But getting yourself right in those aspects will tremendously, and it sounds simple, but it's not easy.
Yeah, totally.
It's a process.
So what does that foundation look like for and again, I'm sure it's personalized for every single one of the clients that you work with, but if you could give like a general framework for somebody starting to work with you, what does their foundation look like?
Yeah. Well, I always look at it like my brain is very systematic. It's very like practical. And I believe that all things, when you reach somebody that's at an expert level, it's really just a playbook and a plug and play. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to specifically your question, the first thing we do, it's so simple. We go all the way back to the foundation and the ABCs. The A is, what is your night routine like? Mm-hmm. My clients are so blown away of the impact that it makes on their mental and their emotional health of just getting on a solid night routine. And then that impacts their sleep. And then having their morning routine next, like we start with the night routine, getting on a food schedule, getting on an exercise schedule, and just starting with where they feel capable, comfortable, but somewhat challenged. And then build upon that. And I think there's a big misconception. I want people to understand this, is that it takes a year to really allow this to become your new normal, your lifestyle. And it takes a month to adjust. So it's not a habit in a month. It's an adjustment phase to figure out what your flow is.
Okay.
And then you build upon that.
Love it. So I'm going to rewind a little bit to this nightly routine. So what's the ideal, and again, it can't change, but what's the ideal nightly routine for you personally or for one of your clients?
Yeah. Well, I'm totally advanced and above and beyond with work with Dr. Joe Dispenza, but I will tell you mine because I always love to work with what's the extreme and then backwards. Pinnacle?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a daily audit. I audit my day every day. I think it's really important. It helps you create new neuroplasticity in your brain. All that means, hopefully I sounded smart right there. Yeah. But all that is it allows you, we work on habit. And if we don't go back and really reassess our habits and our behaviors, we can't change them next time. Mm-hmm. So when you write out if you would have gone back in time and saw your day and rewound it as a movie, and the thing that maybe you're beating yourself up, entrepreneurs and people in general are the hardest on ourselves. We are the biggest critics. So if you could go back and imagine if you could just leave that with the day and not sleep with it. So you go back, write out what I would have done differently. Mm-hmm. And I write it in present tense as if it was a win versus a challenge. So I have my daily wins, my challenges. I allow myself to brain dump everything. And then I reframe it as if I could go back and rewrite it. And that clears things out. So next time the pattern happens again, my brain has a memory that I did it in the way that it was a win, because everything in life's going to have a consequence.
So walk me through what that looks like in practice. So for example, I maybe didn't have a great conversation with somebody at work. So then I would reframe that to, I'm so glad that I handled that situation properly. Or what does that look like?
That was very general. So you could go back and be like, okay, I had conflict with so-and-so, or I was a little bit moody and I snapped at them. So be specific exactly what happened. You can't control other people's behaviors, but you can control the way that you react to them. And that's the thing about emotional intelligence, is you're able to, number one, manage your own emotions, and kind of like the breath, when you learn to do, that's why breath control is so important, because it allows you, I know everybody eats Oreo cookies, or at least has eaten an Oreo cookie in their life. Sure. So it's like taking an Oreo cookie and separating it and creating that space between, just a pause between the reaction and the emotion, because we get so caught up and then we react. So if you can go back in time and be like, okay, I would have just counted to 5 backwards. Something happens when you count. It's like an 8-second count where you just allow yourself to just breathe and count. And then you respond. All you need is 5 to 8 seconds.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's fascinating. All we need, and if we can just that's why breathing creates that relief. And then you just count in your head. And that counting also creates a hypnotic effect where we put ourselves into this trance, because when you're in that energetic state, you become powerless. And when in that powerless energetic state, we do ridiculous things that we end up regretting, or things we can't take back. So it allows you to, if you go back and you're talking about specifically the reframe, think about, it's like sports. How many times do we practice the same drills? I mean, I remember my coach put me through the same drills all the time, right? it's the same exercise. So every day we have the opportunity to put in our physical reps, our mental reps, our emotional reps, and then our spiritual repetitions. And then the more reps we put in, the faster we get there, the more we practice. And then the daily audits just give you that opportunity to course correct, and in a space of the visualization of your own behavior, and you write it specifically, not just generally, because it's going to happen again. Somebody's going to trigger you. They're going to say something. You're going to be in a mood, or maybe you had some issues at home and it had nothing to do with them. So you get to just like take that pause, do your breathing, go back, and then write it as if how you would have responded. You'd be like, listen, I understand where you're coming from. I'm going to get back to you. Or you say however you want to say. Tonality is everything. Breathing, slowing down. I don't know exactly what happened to you, unless you want to share this story.
If I want to turn into a therapy session. No,
I'm not a therapist, by the way, everybody. Everybody's like, she's my therapist. I'm not a therapist.
I love it. Okay, so finish tonality, kind of how you came across, and then you reframe it, correct?
Specifically for what you're saying. Yeah. I mean, however, so the way I
was just trying to think of a negative situation. So it's something that I'd want to change in my day.
It doesn't even always have to be conflict with somebody. It could be something where most of the time people are more mad at themselves than they are at other people.
Totally.
Okay. So I flew up here. We had a 2-hour layover. I did prep my food. So I know myself. I prepped my food. I had my food ready. Cause all things are closed, and we had like flooding in Florida and this stuff. But say I wasn't prepared, right? I literally strategized my day. I worked out at the gym this morning before I came here. I had my day planned out. So I'll use an example recently. Say I didn't prep my food and I didn't have the day to like, knowing myself, be prepared, knowing I needed what I need to do in order to operate at peak performance for myself today to deliver content for our conversation.
Yep.
And I would have been moody. I don't know what food is around here. I don't even know if there's healthy food. I didn't scout out the gyms. I didn't know where I was working out. And my mood would have been completely different. I meditated this morning. My mood would have been completely different because I had a red eye last night. So one thing is my sleep was a little off, very off. Time change. I didn't have my food on me. I didn't prep. And then I'm mad at myself. I knew better. I didn't do better. I was being lazy. I was da-da-da. So if I would have done a reframe, I actually had a win anyway. I would have done a reframe. I said, yesterday I took time. I prepped my food. I had brought my food with me. I scouted out a gym and I worked out. I had my food. I had protein bars on me for snacks. I had my water bottle. So I was prepared. And it's simple little things, but those simple little things actually make a big difference for performance. So I would have gone back as if I did it, and that would have been my reframe. I
love that. So what would you say to somebody who says that is creating like a false sense of reality? Because I've heard that before for people who like talk about manifestation and all this other stuff where it's like you're pretending to have wins even though you didn't actually have the win. So what would your response be?
Do you plan a vacation?
Yes.
Okay. Do you build an itinerary? Do you know where you're going? Do you start to kind of anticipate where you are, book your flight before you get on the flight?
Yep. You book your flight. I have a little Excel spreadsheet from my last vacation where I was like, okay, these are all the places where we're at. These are our times. I went to Greece. Trip. Yeah. It was so fun. And I was like 2 weeks out there, list. But yeah, definitely go. It was a blast, but yeah, we booked, I had all of our ferry times, our flight times, all of that kind of outlined for sure.
Okay, great. So that was manifestation.
Love it.
I have very strong Christians that I work with, and I'm Christian myself. And so the whole word manifestation, if you look, I'm very big on looking up words. Look up the word. The word just means creation. What are you creating? You created a trip. You created an experience. You created a business. You created this. You planned out me being here and us being on, like having this conversation.
Yep.
So you created the opportunities that you wanted to create for your future. Manifestation just means creation. And if you want to have a successful creation, it's actually another formula. Everything is a formula. Every successful blueprint is a formula. And then it's a plug and play. It's like a sport. Literally, it's a sport. It's an An emotion plus an intention plus an action equals a creation. That's the formula. Now, it can go undesired or desired, meaning negative emotion, foggy intention, uncertainty. A lot of people don't know what they want. They're not clear. They're indecisive, especially if we're like not taking care of ourselves. And doing forceful action, survival mode. Now, if you want desired outcome, inspired action, clear intention, and positive emotion.
Got it.
Desired or undesired, everything has a consequence. So, isn't that so simple?
Yeah. If it's so simple, but I'm sure difficult in practice, right? Just like everything.
Simple and easy are not the same.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
So I finish up my review of the day.
Your daily audit.
My daily audit. What else do I do in my night routine?
Well, there's a journal practice where take audit of your daily wins. What did you do right for yourself? You know, this eliminates that like programming of thinking of all the negative things. It takes about 10 positives to clear out a negative. Then you do your challenges, your wins, or your reframing, and then your focus for the day. When I work with elite entrepreneurs, specifically more in the leadership position, they've got a lot in their brain. And even for me, I'm constantly thinking of courses or what I want to do for my clients. And I'm always thinking about like the next like thing that I can do. I'll brain dump it. I'll brain dump it. And I also like to come back to a clean, organized office space. So I'll take like 10, 15 minutes to clean. So you want to do the most active to the least active. And I would say like plan it out like 90 minutes to an hour before. If you're going to use electronics, use it to put on some binaural beats. Because when you're in that negative state of motion, you're in a...
What are those?
Binaural beats, okay, is just a like sound wave.
Oh, okay.
Where it allows your nervous system to be regulated.
Got it. So it's like those like 400 megahertz, or I don't know the actual megahertz, but it's like, and like kind of has like some...
So the brain frequency, so when you're stressed out, hyper stressed, that's beta.
Got it.
Beta is like stress hormone, anxiety, stress, like things that drop our immune system. Then we've got the alpha. It puts us in that calm simplicity. It's a calm energy. It kind of just puts you in that calm flow. So you're not stressed out about thinking about, remember I said manifestation, creation can also go in a different direction. So the binaural beats puts you almost like in that hypnotic.
It's not like a sound bath. Or is it similar sounds? Like I'm just trying to like visualize or hear the sound in my head. Like
I know we could do like
it's okay. We'll like clip this. We'll get a little sound.
Binaural beats. But if you put in like gamma frequency waves,
okay.
The dolphins. They talk about like the dolphins. Like they have like the underground. They're actually in a gamma state. So gamma is the highest frequency in your, I know I'm going a little like science on you here.
I'm ready.
Let's go. So it allows you to operate from your superconscious. Your superconscious is like your higher state of consciousness. And that gamma state of energy is like you're in, so pro athletes, they say like in the zone, in flow state, they're at high frequency.
So that's how it's easier to achieve flow state by listening to these frequencies, essentially.
It helps you get into an elevated emotional state. Remember, this is kind of rewinding back into creation. If you want to win the game, if you want to win the championship, if you want to execute in business and just win the day, you have to get yourself figuring out a way to put yourself in an elevated emotion. Music, think about when you listen to music, it could either put you down when people are sad, where they listen to sad music. Do the opposite. I'm always playing salsa music.
Yeah, I love it.
So the music enhances the emotional state that you're in. So if you understand this, you can be more intentional, and I would say like learn to become an asset versus a liability. And when you understand these things and you have self-awareness, you can change them and they don't control you anymore. And then you have practical tools every day. Like, okay, this is my go-to playlist to get me in more of a flow state, but you don't want to do anything stimulating at night. You want to try to eliminate it. That's where it takes about a month to adjust and figure out what that is. And of course, I mean, you're big on coaching. I have coaches.
Sure.
So coaches just really help give you the strategy, the system, and then also the accountability and the support for that awareness that you might not have. But yeah, so just doing things to just prep me for success, for sleep, And then also for the next 24 hours, because your night impacts the next 24 hours of your day. And then I'll just, the journaling, I'll read a non-stimulating book, something spiritual.
Okay.
And then shower. The warm water always helps calm the nervous system. You know, us ladies, skincare routine.
Sure.
Guys too.
Yeah,
you know,
I do my skincare.
Skin. Yeah.
Totally.
Skincare routine. And then meditation, always meditation. And then bed.
Love it. And
no
then
TV, no nothing in the bedroom.
Phone?
No, well, for the music. I'll use it for
fun for the music, but you're not looking at it.
No.
Got it. Okay. And then now walk me through the morning.
Morning. Okay. So I didn't say this, but this is more the extreme thing is I created a mind movie. The mind movie is like a virtual vision board. So I will use the phone for that. Or even like in the Think and Grow Rich, you write like your focus. Remember, you want to end our day with a clear intention. So what is it that I'm trying to, it's like a focus wheel or a life wheel audit where I'm focusing on what I'm working for. Like, what am I working for?
And that's in the morning. So like you wake up and you go through. I do that
at night and in the morning. I forgot to mention that.
So but is it the same intention both at night and the morning? Okay.
So night, you want to start with the most active, kind of work it down to the least active, kind of like a trail to the bed. And then the least active to the most active. So wake out of bed. I do thank you, prayer and gratitude. Then I get out of bed, just kind of splash some water on my face. And my mirror has affirmations on it. So I have a rule that I always read them out loud. And it's more of like a spiritual prayer. And I read it and I say it out loud, because when you speak things out loud, when you write it, you speak it and you hear it, you take subconscious and put it into conscious awareness. And then I'll read my statement. I wrote a statement to myself, a 1-pager of what my mission is, of why I'm here and what I'm here to do. And then I will watch my mind movie.
So what's the mind movie? Is it like, so did you put it together or okay. And so you said it's like a vision board. So what's the difference?
This is literally like a year course curriculum.
I know.
I'm trying my best to explain. Okay. So the mind movie is actually, have you ever heard of a life wheel?
No.
Okay. They're common, like you guys can Google it, life wheel, but I don't think it's like as detailed. Remember, rewinding, I'm very about structure and practicality. And most entrepreneurs have a rebellious side. I do as well. So I need things like grounded. It takes like 10 categories of your life and you gain clarity on what a 10 would be for that. So if 10 was a level of fulfillment, what would that be? Number one, the hardest step for people is to gain clarity on like identifying the difference between a belief system, a false belief, versus the truth of what you really want. Like, what has God planted in your heart? What has God planted in your mind? And that really is your truth. That specifically is your truth because only you have that vision. Maybe some people have a similar vision, but God planted that inside of your vision. So the more you take care of yourself, the more clear you are to keeping that connection to what your mission and your purpose is. And sometimes it's just the clarity of the next step. And then each layer reveals itself. So the life wheel is about identifying what a 10 would be right here, because we still want to be present, of like what your future present self ideally would be to feel fulfilled and happy and peace and just feeling whole, you know, and reminding yourself of what that is, because I'm sure you can agree there is a lot of noise in the world. There's a lot of distractions. Everybody has opinion. Everybody has a voice. Unfortunately, people don't think before they speak. But, you know, our voice is meant to be an instrument to align our mind with our heart. And so the more connected we are to our heart, and we teach our brain to be obedient to our heart, and we have that like being on our own winning team, we use our voice to speak our truth.
Love it.
So the life wheel, getting back to that, and it takes some time. Doesn't happen overnight. So don't get frustrated if you don't know what you want. It's taking 10 categories of life. For example, fun and adventure, personal growth and development, career, money. Career and money are not the same category. Friends and family. family you can't control, but like maybe family, you know, your friend family, your soul family. What else? Your romance. You know, if you don't have a partner, like how can you self-romance? How can you love yourself? How can you take care of yourself? Like you take yourself on dates. And what you do have, how can you enhance it? Maybe it's an 8. How do you bring it to a 10? Get your partner involved in it. And just go through all the different, they got like 10 categories in there, you know, contribution to society. How do you what is your way of giving back? And sometimes it's the social media. I use my platform to be a contribution to society. I try to give as much free content to people that maybe can't afford it right now.
Yeah.
And like, what does that 10 look like? And then I put it into words of affirmation or words that resonate with me that feel like not fake. You know, sometimes you say things, you're like, sometimes I used to get mad when I read affirmation, I'm like, duh, this isn't true. You know? So I'd say like, I'm in the process of learning how to become a healthy person. I'm in the process of
that's good.
Of being happy. I'm in the process of learning what it's like to be in a healthy relationship.
Yeah. Because that was always my issue with affirmations too. It's like, I'm so happy that I am wealthy. And I'm like, I'm not yet.
Yeah. Right. And then it pissed you off.
Yeah. And I'm like, why am I saying this? So but I like that better.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm in the journey of learning how to figure this out, you know? And then you can have like those setup statements where it feels, it's like a progression. So we set up like progressional statements for people until it feels more real for you. And then it's just like you said, like taking with where you're at, but then adding a little bit of like a challenge, like what's the next level type of thing. And even in the way that we're speaking life into ourselves and speaking life into our goals, there was a season I was in and I was like just not seeing results in what I was building. And I wasn't clear on it, but I knew like I was on the right track. Have you ever felt that way?
Oh, totally.
Like,
yeah.
I don't see the whole vision and I don't really know what I'm doing, but I do know what I'm doing, but I don't know how to explain what I'm doing.
Totally. Yeah. You know, you feel like this does feel right, but I'm not seeing the results yet, or I don't know, like you said, I don't know the whole picture quite yet. So I definitely resonate with that.
Yeah. So you just like, it allows you to kind of put an image together and it keeps you focused on what you do know. And one of my another favorite quote, I don't know who said it. I started learning this when I started studying heavily energy psychology. And you don't get what you want, you get what you're interested in.
Elaborate on that. So like, what do you mean by interested in?
So if you're getting back to what you were just saying, you're in a season of, we'll just focus on career because there's a lot of entrepreneurs that listen to this. You're in a season where you might be frustrated or even numb to what you're doing. You feel desensitized and you feel like you're stuck or you're not moving. And you start to, instead of prophesizing over what you're doing, you're like negatively, you're talking poorly about what you're doing. You're gossiping about yourself. You're gossiping about what you're doing. And you're just being more destructive than anything. You're putting your business down. You're putting your dreams down. And it's about like being able to turn it around and prophesizing over it. And I have like 10 thoughts in my head. So I was like, wait, what was the point of where I was going with this one here? What was like the main thing that we were
talking about the wheel?
Yes. So the wheel allows you to just focus on that next clear step of like what that would be. So you can just kind of keep that focus of reminding yourself of what your intention is and where you're going versus just going down that negative space of being more of like a liability and talking poorly about that space. Because I see a lot of people in that segment of almost being like numb to what they're doing.
Yeah. I've definitely seen a lot of entrepreneurs who struggle with that as well. So, just focusing on, it's that one quote where, if you focus on building a wall, it's going to be very difficult. But if you focus on laying each brick as perfectly as possible, sooner or later, you're going to have the wall.
Oh, so, now I remember what we're talking about.
Love it.
Come on, you're supposed to have me like
I'm trying.
So you don't get what you want, you get what you're interested in. So the reason, come on, we're supposed to be a team here.
Of course. Yeah, we got it.
So I was like, it's going to cycle back. It's going to cycle back. So getting back to what I was giving that example about is if you're interested in putting yourself down, if you're focusing on criticizing what you're doing and focusing on not being where you want to be, then you're going to keep getting more of that. But if you're versus what you want, because it's not what you want, but you're interested in not being where you want to be, meaning like it's your interest. You're focusing on it. You're giving your energy to it. You're giving your time to it. So it's an interest. And when you start to like get clear, so the focus wheel keeps you focused on like what you want in each category of your life. And it allows you to, no matter what your day, it's like your day is reset every day. Like when you're coming from addiction, like you just focus on one day, winning the day, but you have to recalibrate. So that recalibration is the first thing. Is your subconscious is the most vulnerable morning and at night. And that's why I placed it in the morning and the night in that like a sandwich.
Got it.
And you're focusing in on, you're interested on where you're going, not on where you're at or where you've been. And I want to share this real fast because this is really important for people is part of the equation that we went back to the creation that I was just talking about, you know, elevated motion, clear intention, inspired action, not forceful action, is when you're in a space of feeling stuck and frustrated or like criticizing what you're doing, or you know, space where you're like, let's use a very simple practical one. I don't want to work out today. I'm not in the mood. I want to sleep in.
I think everyone's felt that.
I don't want to eat healthy today. I want to eat comfort food. You're not inspired, but if you focus on not on your current situation, circumstance, you focus on what's on the other side of that. That's where the inspired action comes from. You know, that helped out a lot of my clients when they were asking me about how to get out of that funk. Focus on what's on the other side. Focusing on what's on the other side is what will inspire you to move. Not on where you're at, but what's on the other side. Because let me ask you this. Days where you like don't want to work out because you're super healthy, like you got to glow up. You know, it's like that.
Trying. Days
that you don't want to work out and you do it anyway, do you ever regret it?
Never. And that's honestly what I tell myself too. I'm like, I will like, number one, and this is like I heard a quote somewhere. It's like, I respect myself more, like because I worked out today, right? Like I feel like I value myself more after working out or getting the right job done or, you know, having a productive day at work. I'm like, okay, like I earned my respect today is the way I look at least. And so, but yeah, to answer your question, no, there's never a time ever where I'm like, dang, I'm so bummed out I worked out today. Like that never happens. So
when what time do you work out?
In the mornings.
Early?
Yeah. Like, so I did a 5:45 yoga class today was my workout.
Love it. Yeah, your alarm goes off.
Yep.
What time?
Today alarm went off at 5. It's about a
5:40.
Yeah. If the yoga class was that close, absolutely. So yeah, I could definitely work on my morning routine for sure.
Yeah.
But so I woke up right around 5. Got in, you know, I don't eat. I do fast. I fast until
so hold on, don't go there yet.
Okay.
Alarm goes off. What did your brain tell you?
It's dark out. And then so I said, oh geez, okay, well, all right, we're gonna roll out of bed, we're gonna get this done. And honestly, like these weeks, because we have WealthCon and everything else, honestly, I feel pretty energized because I'm like, oh, like this is like it's a long week, it's a hard week, but it's fun, right?
So not a week like this. Let's rewind.
So we'll rewind. So I'll take it. So I'm like, okay, like I could go back to bed.
Yeah.
Like I'm already kind of healthy. Like I could probably skip a workout. Like those are all the things that like my head's going through. It's like, it's early. You could work out after work, which I never do. But yeah, so there's a lot of things that go through my mind on those days where I don't want to work out. So let me ask
you this. Okay. And I want people to understand this is completely everybody's brain.
Yep.
But you actually take action. So what's the next part of your brain where you actually get up? Like what part of that, what does the brain say to you for you to actually get out of bed? Because I'm sure you've had a few days where you didn't get out of bed. Oh,
totally. Yeah, there's definitely been days like that where it's easy to make excuses where, oh, you know, I had a long day yesterday. Oh, you know, I'll pick it up tomorrow. Let's do a harder workout then. But yeah, the next thought's probably like, no, you committed to this. Like you booked a workout class or, you know, you already like, honestly, it's like, don't be a bitch, but
That's like your anchor, don't be a little bitch.
Literally, like in my head, I'm like, just don't be a bitch, Javi. And then that's like, it's silly, but that's exactly what goes through my mind.
So that's your code.
Yeah, that's my code. I'm like, you said you would, so go do it. And then, just go get it done. And
you also created a neural pathway in your brain from experiences, because beliefs are shapeshift through experiences. So somebody who doesn't have this behavior yet, or it's not a lifestyle, they haven't had enough experiences to shapeshift their belief system. But every time, going back to what we just said, what's on the other side.
Exactly.
You know how great you're going to feel. No pill could do that for you. No conversation. That's the inside work. That is a pillar of you operating from a better space, from like peak performance for the day. Because the days that I know I don't show up, I'm not as clear-minded. I can't handle situation as efficiently. I just don't operate the same.
Totally. And the days that I don't work out, like I come to work and I'm not, like you said, I'm just not at the same level. I don't, again, I might react a different way when I'm dealing with a problem. So yeah, everything is better in my life once I like get my body moving. So I've confirmed that. I know it. So I do my best to like make sure that I'm doing that as often as possible.
Similar to a business model, right?
Yep.
Like, what is it? They say success is measured through like consistent, like, in chemistry, you're doing all these things, you get the same outcome all the time.
Oh yeah, it's a cooking recipe, it's a chemistry recipe, like whatever it is. But yeah, if you follow a certain set of actions, you're probably going to be successul, right? It's the playbook for everything. So
absolutely, everything's a plug and play. Like, you don't do yoga every day. You do yoga like a few days. You work out at the gym. Yeah, and for high-end achievers and entrepreneurs, it's also important to have like a database of things to cycle with, because to prevent boredom. Boredom is also a very, it's a destructive thing that can get in the way. And typically with that extremist personality trait, because it's a very similar personality trait, see, I've narrowed it down, you have to have freedom within structure. So by being able to identify the things to cycle with, where you feel like you get to choose, but you're still doing exercise is a category. That's the equation. And you're plugging based on what's enjoyable for you, like yoga and weight training. And do you do anything else?
Yeah, I do like a few HIIT classes like throughout the week. Yep.
Do you do any like recreational sports for fun?
Yeah, I'm a golfer, not very good, but
golf. I did it one time. It was amazing.
Yeah, it's so fun. You're out in the sun, you're enjoying yourself.
But that's like an all-day excursion.
Yeah, it's like it's going to take 5 hours out of your day.
Yeah,
for sure.
So sometimes I have clients they'll go and do like a game of basketball. Or like something community based.
Yeah.
I salsa dance, but that's like late night. So I have 2 nights a week where I call them my freedom nights.
Yeah.
And so it's not always every day, but 5 days a week is a solid schedule. And then 2 nights a week I have that. And networking too. You gotta have 2 like late nights, and then maybe it's not the same exact, because you're going to get understimulated, and stimulated is a dangerous space to be in as well, because that's where people get more self-destructive and they get into that like self-sabotage, because they want that freedom, they want the fun, they want the stimulation. So you can have it all, but there's a sequence and a formula to it in order for you to have a successful outcome for the long game.
Got it. So, how does somebody stay properly stimulated? Is it just by variety, or what other strategies are there to stay on the right level of stimulation?
It depends on what season somebody's in. There's different seasons in business and in life, and that comes back to the space of accepting the season you're in. And then within the season, there are multiple levels. So it depends on like where somebody is. Like maybe you decide, I'm not going to prophesize right now. I don't know if you want it, but like maybe you guys, have a baby.
Totally. Yeah.
And then your whole season you're in a different season. It's not a bad season. It's just, you're not going to be sleeping. So you're not going to be maybe your workouts aren't going to be as consistent, or you're going to have to create like afternoon workouts, and it's going to be a little bit different. But maybe you're in a primetime season and you can have like as variety as you want. It just depends on somebody's season, and it depends on their level, and it depends on, like just what's important to them, and finding out what what might be fun for them. And even though not everybody loves lifting, you still like enjoy it.
Yeah.
You're not like excited about it, but,
but I like going to the gym and it's nice.
Yeah, I do too.
And like, I like lifting. You know, my gym has like a sauna and a pool and all the other stuff too. Yeah. So I make it a whole little experience.
So you have things to look forward to.
Exactly.
Yeah. And people are like, oh, it's boring. But even your workout is not the exact same workout.
Yeah.
And this is
you
where
can make it fun.
Yeah. And this is where you get into like coaches, like hire people that are experts that are going to give you a customized program. It's program designing for you. Just like I know you guys have business coaches, you've had trainers, you have a yoga teacher. Like nobody great has done it alone. Like there's a system and a protocol behind everything. And if you want to get there the fastest, it's like a time machine. Invest in somebody, a mentor, a coach that's going to help give you that playbook for you and give you your own variety and then teach you how to, course correct for different seasons and the holidays are coming up. So travel, like things shift, but for the most part, the framework is solid.
Yep. And I'm so glad you touched on that as far as coaching goes, because that people talk about cheat codes or secret pills or whatever. That's the cheat code. Go get a coach. Go find a mentor, go pay to be in the room, and you're going to save so much time, energy, money. Even though you're investing in the coaching, I guarantee you the coaching is going to be less than the money you would spend on all the mistakes you would make, all the different twists and turns that come when you just get around to like an expert like yourself for, emotional intelligence or leadership or just growth or, coaching on our end, whatever it is. But like you need just pay the money, condense the time because time is the most valuable resource, right? Like, people can get it back. Exactly. People will get their money. People will go, money comes and goes, but your time is so valuable. So just condense it, get around the right people and learn the strategies.
And I want to add on that too, not only just time, but your energy. I don't think people appreciate energy and time enough.
I agree. Yeah. So how do I protect my energy or how do I create good energy so I start attracting better things into my life?
I'm really big on the adding factor.
What's that?
So mostly everybody has a rebellious personality. And if I take that water away from you,
I'm going to be very angry.
You're going to want it. You're going to want to get it back, right? But if I just give you my water, you're like, wow, I'm overflowing with water. I'm abundant, right? There's no lack. And same thing with food. Same thing with anything. Like I believe that when you add more, the undesired things, I don't believe they're being negative or positive. I believe they're being desired or undesired, aligned or unaligned. And what could have been desired last season for you, or what could have been, it could be like a desired this season, or what was desired last season is not desired this season. And that's kind of people label it good or bad, but then that's where like you're dealing with like guilt, shame, judgment, all this other stuff. So I would just focusing on finding out what's important to you in this season of your business and your life and your relationships. And I would add more and the other things will work its way out.
Got it.
I did this thing on my Instagram where I found, it took me a long time. The video was like a minute, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It took me like the whole day to figure out how to create this video.
Oh, wow.
The point was to purify a dirty mind or like a self-destructive mind. And what happens is like, say there's like dirt and rocks, like not only just dirt, because dirt will pour out faster than rocks, but you've got like cellular impressions. They call it cellular impressions.
Okay. What's that?
Trauma, childhood trauma, insecurities, lack of self, like those deep things of what's either broke somebody or built somebody. Somebody's adopted, they feel like they're never wanted, or somebody that was rejected from their parents, they feel like they're afraid of relationships, so they always sabotage relationships. Even being married, I see it a lot, and like not fully being a team. So those are the rocks. Those are the cellular impressions. And you can create a cellular memory releasing it, but it takes time. And as long as you're making progress, like I think if we eliminate how long it's going to take or when we're going to get there. So I did this this thing. I did this video, this reel where I put like dirt and rocks inside a glass, and I have my Kangen machine. So I'm like, let me be fancy here. Yeah. So I'm pouring it in, but it's not like as high pressure as my like faucet. And I'm pouring it in there. It took me like 30 minutes for this thing for like the water purified, but the rocks were still in there. And so sometimes the rocks are going to stay there. But what happened was all the dirt, like in order to get the dirt out without dumping it, you have to keep pouring water in, and eventually the dirt rises to the top, and that's a cellular memory release.
Got it.
So we have to pour in what we want, what we're interested in, right? Let's make sure what we're interested in, what we want are in harmony. I'm a big believer in you can have it all, but you just got to figure out how to like, and that's like, you know, the coaching, the mentorship, like find people, even your ecosystem. You guys have like taking the tour here, such an enriched ecosystem here. I do have to applaud you on that.
Thank you.
Like the vibes are awesome. The people are nice. Like,
well, yeah, I mean, and our whole mindset too is also you can have it all. You know, you can have the business, you can have the faith, you can have the health, relationships, marriage, whatever it is, whatever you're looking for, whatever your all is to you, it is possible, right? And that's our whole thought process here. So first, thank you. You know, the team's going to be happy to hear it. But yeah, I think one thing that we do well is provide a good culture of growth, not only for like our executives, but for like our employees. Everybody does feel empowered to make decisions, and it's fun. It's positive.
And you can tell too that because the biggest thing is, you know, everything is an extension of the leader. And if the leader is capable of leading themselves, then they're capable of leading others. And I work with people in the beginning before they know how to lead themselves, and they have a high turnover rate because they haven't hired on core values, they hired on skill. And that's what you're talking about, the culture. And so the culture is just an external expression of what you've got internally. So by you guys taking care of you, you've hired minions. No, you're probably not gonna like I said that.
Well, you know, they're high performing minions.
Yes, exactly.
but I say that nicely. But you're right. You know, it's the one thing that we do with all of our hires too is we measure against our core values. You know, we have our 4 core values: train daily, play fair, no ego, serve others. Right. Every employee in there can recite those, hopefully as quickly as I just did. But that's the first thing that we measure against. Before, if they don't hit that, doesn't matter how talented they are, doesn't matter what their skill set is for the role, like they can't work here. And then we do an audit typically it's 3 months where we reevaluate again. It's like, did they fall out of alignment in those core values? And then we evaluate obviously their job role and all the other stuff too. But that's huge for us because we want to maintain the culture.
Do you give them an opportunity to have the self-awareness and then to course correct?
We do our best to. So there's certain things that are like non-negotiable where it's like, okay, like if you truly are like out of alignment with like our core values or, you know, your goals change, we'll sit down with you and say, hey, you know, this isn't necessarily working out. The values is the hardest one to like really course correct. Obviously, if like they're not performing in their role, then we'll sit down and like have an actual like conversation. It just really depends on the severity of like what's going on. But typically we've had a few conversations before we have to let them go.
Well, it's the same thing of what we don't do with ourselves.
Yeah. It's true, right?
So everything we're having conversation on is really that. And what I do is just kind of create that personal responsibility for somebody. You know, like you got to take ownership over that. You have to be responsible. And that's the shift from the victim consciousness to the victor, the winner consciousness. And that is just going to extend and pour into your business. But you said like, how do I, you know, what would I do for, I forgot even what we were talking about with like, how do I, what did you ask me?
Somebody who's starting from scratch, leading themselves. How do you operate at a high energy?
No, because you asked me something for you. You're like, what would you do for me? And I was like, we would focus on the adding mentality.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I was just asking like, what would you create like as far as a routine for me goes? I think was the question.
How do we go down that rabbit hole?
You know, it's good.
There's
good
so
conversation.
Much conversation
yeah,
here.
No, it's good.
So the first thing is just that I just cycle back to that. The adding factor. The adding factor went to that whole 30-minute segment.
Yeah, it was good.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
The adding factor would just be as far as like what can we add to your night routine? You know, like, so what does your night routine look like? Do you
it's
even
terrible.
have a night routine?
No, I don't. I mean, I have my night skincare routine. So I put on some like retinoid and then some retinol and then, some moisturizer, but that's another story. That's not for this podcast.
Do you have a appointment for bed?
Yes. I'm in bed.
You have to be up at, so here's how we do.
Yeah.
And sorry to correct you, but not really. 5 a.m. is your wake up.
Yep.
So we start there. What time do you want to wake up without feeling rushed or with anxiety?
Yep. So right
5 a.m.
5. Mm-hmm.
How many hours of quality uninterrupted sleep do you need?
So for me to operate at my best, I need about at a minimum 7 to 7.5 hours.
Okay. And studies show that anyway, like 7.5 hours of solid quality uninterrupted sleep, right? So if we're working backwards, that's like 10 a.m., 9:30, 10, right?
Yep.
Typically, we need about an hour to decompress our brain.
Mm-hmm.
And so that would be meaning your night routine. So that means your bedtime needs to be like 9:30, 10.
Yep, which is accurate. Like last night I was asleep by like 9. So
okay,
that's
perfect.
Pretty.
So 8 p.m. is when your self-care starts.
Mm-hmm. My self-care right now is TikTok, which is terrible. But I should not do this, but I know I'm on my phone.
But that's an addiction.
Exactly.
And that's
totally
a dopamine release. And what you watch at night, you're programming your subconscious.
I know.
At that time.
Mm-hmm.
Where this comes back into, okay, if I'm aware of me programming what I'm interested in, I get what I want. See how everything's cycling together? What I'm interested so what do I want? And how can I intentionally create what I'm interested in and like put that in that time frame? So that time will be like, how can I self-soothe and self-care without electronics and without social media? So that's creating that discipline. And I have my clients put a phone alarm in. Self-care, 8 p.m. Now, I'm not taking it away. What I'm doing is the adding factor. Let's create 5 things max of what you can do that you will look forward to in order to self-soothe. So I'm not telling you can't watch TikTok. I'm just saying TikTok is until 8.
Yeah. And then
from
done.
8 to 9, we're going to focus in on these things. So I'm adding things to your plate to give you a target. So your brain now has something to target. And most people, their only target is like, I just want a moment to not think. Mm-hmm. Especially entrepreneurs.
Yep.
So I need a moment to not think. And that's what social media does. Number one, it gives you that high, that dopamine release. It's serotonin. Mm-hmm. And it also gives you permission to not think for a moment.
Totally. Like I'm thinking all day long. So it's just a time to like turn my brain off. But I know it's not healthy. Like, it's like one of those.
But you don't know what else to do.
That's what I was about to say. That by filling it up with other stuff, then, it allows like,
you have a target.
It makes it a lot easier. Yeah, I have a target. And, it's I think it's Pareto's principle where it's like, if you give yourself enough time to do something, you're going to get it done in that time frame, right? Mm-hmm. So if I have a deadline, right? So I say, okay, I'm done at 8 p.m. Like that's fine. Like I can cut it off and I'll get my scroll on for the 30 minutes before.
Giving an intentional direction,
exactly.
A focus, a target. Entrepreneurs do very well with targets. It's like kind of like a curse and a blessing. Like you create your schedule, but you create your schedule.
Yep. Exactly.
And you do very well if things are filled up. That's another reason why having something to kind of look at your blind spots of what you're doing. And just like you would look at a company of like, okay, where are the cracks? What is creating a procrastination or inefficiency or taking away from productivity and performance? Oh, these are the things. Same thing with human performance. Okay, where are the cracks in your day? And it's so simple, but it's not easy.
Well, yeah, that, and it takes somebody on the outside to be able to kind of like look in and say, okay, like these are the cracks, right? And some people are just okay with them too. You might be able to recognize them, but
a lot of people aren't. And it takes the right coach to be able to communicate in a way where you understand and you're receptive to understanding why it's important to you and your life and how that little thing is going to get you from good to great, from great to legendary.
Love that. And yeah, and I'm sure it's like all these little things compounded on top of each other, but all of them are important.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like, think about, what is today? October 2nd. Think about October 2nd, 2022 compared to October 2nd, 2023. What is the difference of where you guys were within
it's huge.
that time frame?
Yeah. I mean, millions of dollars.
Okay.
Right? Yeah.
So 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 + 1. Win the day. Win the day. Win the day. Win the day.
That's the formula.
Simple.
Simple, not easy.
Yeah. And it's just taking personal responsibility, that knowing every day counts. And I think like it's like a diet it's not even a diet, it's like a nutrition. I don't even like the word diet, but like people go so extreme and they're not focusing on the long game and the lifestyle of it versus just like that. You know, you mentioned discipline earlier. Discipline equals freedom, and there is a fine line between discipline and self-punishment. And I feel like a lot of people go about the route of exercise or nutrition and different forms of self-discipline for like that self-mastery in a way that's more like a form of self-punishment than it is a form of discipline to create freedom.
Yeah, I think because most people, they want like a quick fix, or like they cram almost, where it's like, I'm going to go on a diet for 90 days, or I'm going to work out really hard to get this transformation. And then it's not sustainable, right? Yeah. So how does somebody kind of weave that into their actual lifestyle versus, like you said, do would you say self-discipline, but not self-discipline?
Self-auditing?
Self-destruction. No. You said self-punishment. That's what it was.
Yeah, self-punishment.
Yeah. So how does somebody teeter between, self-discipline versus actual self-punishment? Like how is that sustainable?
How is it sustainable, or how do you discern the difference?
Well, I guess first is, how do you discern the difference? And then next, like, how do I create like something with my diet or with my workout routine that's going to be sustainable for the long term versus somebody who's just, doing this for a crash course of like 90 days or something?
Acceptance, accepting this is where I am. And this is something I struggled with for a long time too. There's one point where I was 60 pounds overweight. I was an addict with food and alcohol, and I wouldn't accept that I had a problem or I wouldn't accept like where I was at or like accept my body and my weight, because then I thought that I wouldn't make progress. And when you accept where you're at, that's the only space where you can make progress. So accepting where you're at and then focusing on the next level from where you're at. Like, yes, gain clarity on where you want to be, but don't obsess about that, because that could backfire. So because it's too big of a gap most of the time. So if you focus on like, okay, this is where I want to be. So that's your focus wheel. But at the same time, what is the next level from where I'm at? And how do I just get to that next level? And then when, everything is like, it's like putting in your daily repetitions. You get a little stronger, you build up more momentum. And it's taking like where you're at and reverse engineering it and building you out like your DMOs, your human performance systems, your daily methods of operation. And then when you have, I'll use an example to get very practical with you. Do you meditate?
Not as often as I should. Yoga is typically like my moving meditation, or like I used to meditate a little more than I do now, but
it's not like brushing your teeth.
No, not at all.
Okay. So let's use meditation, because this is a big one for people. If I said, Javier, I know your night routine is we just built out your night routine. It's from 8 to 9, and we're going to put in meditation at 8:45, and you're going to do 1 minute for the next 30 days. Doable or like super capable?
Oh, super capable. Yeah.
Perfect. And I say at night because most people kind of like rush, or you oversleep and you got to get your workout. So that's more the priority. So at nighttime, you can most likely majorly be successful on that. Now, if I said I want to do 15 minutes every day.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
I'll try.
My brain, or like 15 minutes is a little bit, it's not so we want to build a base first and then build momentum on the base.
Got it.
And then maybe it'll be one song. Or maybe we'll do 2 minutes. And I'd rather have like consistency, like brushing your teeth, where it becomes like a part of your day. You know, like who wants to go to an office with like not brush teeth?
Not me.
I don't either.
Not the people I work with either.
Yeah, exactly. Or you're going to like give them a toothbrush. You start having toothbrushes in the bathroom, right? Yeah. And like they do that in Brazil.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you just want to create like, how can we create the habit and what would be doable and practical and where you feel capable of it being more for the long game. And then we're going to build off of the base as we go. And then that's the next clear step. After that becomes like a routine, then we're going to add to that.
Love that. So another question. So somebody who's listening is like, okay, this all sounds great, but how do they get their partner on board?
Please do not be that like naggy person.
Yeah.
So there's 2 forms of getting people to move. And there's 2 reasons why people don't move. And I'll share both. In order to get people to move, we have inspiration and motivation. Inspiration, if you break the word down, is in spirit. It's internal. You're exercising, you're being you, and I'm seeing you progress. I'm seeing you become more successful of how I'm measuring success. And I'm like, wow, I'm so inspired. I want to be better because you're better. Just by doing what I'm doing. You're happier, you're glowing. You're just like got this peace to you. You've got this great aura. I'm like, what are you doing? I'm coming to you. I'm asking you, what are you doing? I see the changes. Now, you're on your path and I'm lazy. And you're like, come on, Tanya, go to the gym. Let's go. Like, why are you eating that cupcake? And you smack the cupcake out of my hand. And you're like, what are you doing? You know, like eventually motivation is a pushing. It's an external that's why motivation is not for the long game. Now you can learn how to leverage off of motivation, but eventually people are going to get tired of it. It's exhausting. Like nobody wants to be pushed around for the long term. So by you being the leader and learning to lead yourself and learning to do it, that alone is going to inspire your partner to want to do the same. If you have a partner that really does have your highest interest, unfortunately, during the journey of growth, not every partner is going to want to see you win.
It's true.
And I see that happen sometimes. And it does, but it gives you clarity because it's like crabs in a bucket. You're only going to go get out of the bucket and go to the next level. But if you're around an environment that you're not even aware of, that people really want to keep you playing at lower levels, it does get to show you that it's time to move on.
Totally.
With friends, family, and relationships. So those are 2 forms. I've noticed a lot of couples become even stronger and more powerful with people that I work with. And I say, listen, do your part and your partner will follow.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as it's the right partner.
Exactly. Now, if there's not, there's little issues. And then typically the partner will end up then also wanting to work with me or like work together and also do their own growth work.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. And it's just really cool to see. And then the kids will get involved because that impacts your whole inner ecosystem, you know, because you are the leader of your family. You are the leader of your children. And there's 2 reasons why people don't move forward. And that is from resistance and attachment. Resistance is, I don't understand why I need to make changes when I've got so much going on already and I'm so overwhelmed. I don't know how I'm going to add one more thing to my overly full life box. And people procrastinate because of 3 reasons. Everybody thinks it's a lazy skill. It's really the inability to process negative thoughts and emotions, such as overwhelm, distractions, and not feeling safe to move forward. And a lot of people don't know that. So with resistance is we have to explain to somebody how that's going to impact you. Like, for example, meditation. A lot of people know, like the top achievers will start talking about meditation. You'll start hearing a lot of elite entrepreneurs talk about like health and exercise. And now as leaders, that's inspiring other people to also want to prioritize it. And they'll start to explain why. And then people are like, okay, now I see that increases my productivity, my performance. It'll help me get off my medication. I'll have better relationships. I'm not going to be as moody. Like I can think better, mental sharpness. So that will be the reason why people prioritize things. Attachment is I'm in pain, mental pain, emotional pain, physical pain. And this is the only tool in my toolbox that I know for sure is going to give me relief. It's the only way I can get through this. And this is where the adding or the law of substitution comes in place when I work with people. And that is, in order to be successful, you have to replace it with something of equal or greater value for it to give them that desired outcome. Got it. So there's different things, like the same thing, but knowing what to place for when. It's so similar to business stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's the playbook is what it sounds like.
It's a playbook. Exactly.
So you mentioned kids too. So how do you instill that in a child, like the right coping mechanisms and the right, way to, want to have these nightly routines and these daily routines? Do you just do it right away? Or like, how do you instill that into a kid too? Because it sounds like you're working with them a lot.
Yeah, everybody gets on an 8 routine and you can do it together. Sometimes what's important to them is like stretching, family stretch session.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, family stretch session or like a 10-minute yoga, breath work. Kids their brain cannot discern things until the age of 12. So you are their superhero. And remember, when you go first and it might take them a few months to catch up because I call it the introduction. You're introducing yourself to a higher version of yourself. A more admirable version of yourself, a more aligned version of yourself, and you're just getting to know that version. What makes you think they're gonna know what you're doing? Just like it's gonna take you some time to catch up to yourself, you have to also give your family time to catch up to introducing yourself to them as well.
That makes sense.
Like, people are like, oh my gosh, you've changed. Thank you so much.
That was the goal.
Not. You have not.
Yeah.
So sorry for you.
Happy to be here, but I get it.
Sorry for your
that makes sense. Yep. Loss of time.
Your loss of me.
Yep, that's true. So
time and energy.
I love it. So how did you really get on this path? Because you're so knowledgeable. You have a lot of experience, knowledge in all these different aspects, but like, what was your first dip into it? Like, was there certain books that you were reading or like I guess my question that I'm really getting at is if somebody really was starting at zero, but doesn't have the knowledge yet but wants to, where do they start?
Well, it depends on what the resources are. So the first place to start is learn how to take care of your body. When you learn to take care of your body, it's going to help you. We didn't cover this, but my foundation was, before an athlete, was also personal training and nutrition.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And I've been a coach like my whole 18-year career. And then I started understanding that our food, as I was healing from my own addictions, was that, and I had coaches help me get at all that. I call it like having a strong lineup. You have to have a strong lineup for those moments. And so somebody's on ground zero, like find people that the truth, your heart recognizes truth. I just want to kind of point that out. So the brain is the analytical part where it's all programming and we convince ourselves. But the more we're connected to our heart, and you do yoga. Yoga just means a union with your higher self. The more that we become connected to the heart, and our breath controls the rate at which our heart beats. So we learn breath control. We learn to control the rate at our heart. We slow things down so we can have clarity and be more in that at least alpha frequency so we can see and be clear. Then you can discern. And A Course in Miracles says truth can only be recognized. It can never be learned. So find people that you feel are speaking truth and if you don't have the financial budget for it, just have mentors from afar. I had mentors from afar until I started making money, and then I invested in conferences. And I love how Stormy Wellington said, serve your way, earn your way, pay your way. And I literally just had I was at the gym training, and one of the guys was like, how are you operating like this? And he's like, tell me what you do. And he's like 20-year-old, but he was hungry.
Yeah.
And I told him that, and I was like, get around people, listen to podcasts, find people that have strong core values, and see if they, need support in anything, be of service, and serve your way in there. And then as you start to make income, pay your way. You talked about time machine, time travel, speeding things up. What took me 18 years, I could teach you in 1 year or less, depending on how quickly you grow or what we have to clean up and don't have to clean up. And then position yourself in events and mentorships, and come to these type of conferences and collaborate. And, it's not a one-time transaction. Follow up with people, check up on people. That's what we did. I'm like, how you doing? What are you up to? Hey, do you need anybody? Do you, I love to help. I love to serve. I love to come and add value. And it's just,
and here we are.
Yeah. It's a long game. So start with taking care of your body, enrich your ecosystem with people that have what you want. They're doing what you want, come from a space of admiration versus jealousy. And, study on emotional management, emotional intelligence, definitely get into a yoga practice. I'm very big on yoga. Yeah.
It's been huge for my life. I love it. I got certified as a teacher just for fun.
Really? Amazing. Yeah. I have two as well.
Nice. Yeah. I did the 200-hour vinyasa.
The YTT. Vinyasa.
Yeah.
If you find a Raja.
So I've never even, what's a Raja?
Here's the funny thing. It's just so interesting. Raja is it's royal yoga, they call it. And it's one of the hardest practices mentally and emotionally, but the simplest one physically, but not really, because you have to hold your pose for 5 minutes and
I've heard of this. Yeah.
Through it. And what happens is you get an experience. Remember, we shapeshift beliefs based on experiences. This is where you get into cellular memory releasing. And EFT is another form of cellular memory releasing, which is like tapping, emotional freedom technique and stuff like that. It's a whole nother podcast episode. But yeah, you have to breathe through the discomfort and find comfort in the discomfort, which is life. So it's find your calm in the chaos. And that's why it's one of the hardest forms of yoga, because it teaches you to really master your breath during a very intense time until you feel like it's kind of like a fever, like you break the fever. So if you're in anger, you breathe through the anger, and some people just start crying in the middle of it. But vinyasa, you're constantly moving. So you don't have to really like sit with what you're facing. Yeah. And if you're struggling with a lot of anxiety, a lot of people talk about the Wim Hof breathing, but I personally believe that that's great when you're depressed. But when you're anxious, you need to slow the breath down. Yes. Because the breath controls the rate at which your heart beats. So if you want to regulate your nervous system, learn to regulate your breath. So I'm really big on yoga, and I'm so happy to hear that it's like part of your practice. Definitely everybody start with yoga. And people that really are able to free themselves from addiction patterns, they end up going into yoga. Interesting. So maybe the substance doesn't control them anymore, but the craving is so intensely there. I'm talking about cellular liberation, like that freedom, that peace. Yeah. Well, that, and like, even just from a physical perspective, like, they say that you store a lot of your stress in the hips and all that. So and I agree, like vinyasa is a lot more of like an active thing, but I still get to turn my brain off, but at least I'm able to like
open my body up and like I feel ready for the day when I'm done. And I'm like, okay, like I do hot yoga too. So like
I love it.
The temperature like helps out also. So I walk out and I'm like, okay, like I'm refreshed. I'm ready to go. A little dehydrated, but that's fine.
Hydrate before you go in.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Like, so
you're up so early. So
yeah, I mean, I chug water at night. That's another big thing that's helped me out too, is like I drink a lot of water right before bed. The first week I was peeing a lot at night, but after that, like I wake up a little bit more hydrated, and then I drink like half a Nalgene bottle right before I go in. So what is that, like 32 liters or so?
You're just gonna have to get up at 4:30.
Exactly. I got to get up at 4:30. I really should though, at least for like I know I should be more intentional with like reading in the morning.
Be careful with should though, because should is a word of self-criticism.
Ugh, I know. I'm bad at that. But that's what I think has made me more successful. And I'd like to get in the habit of. Yeah. I'd like to get in the habit of. That's better. Yeah. And if you say it, I should start saying that. But yeah, I'd like to start saying that. Like where we put ourselves down. Yes. I'm not doing enough. Yeah. Is what you're saying. Totally. Well, that's how and again, it's not good. I should work on my self-talk for sure. But you're judging yourself again. Yeah. Oh my gosh. See, it's right so now, deeply ingrained. Today. Yeah. I would like to. Don't worry. I'll invoice you later. Ryan's paying this one. We'll bill Ryan. Yeah. I'd like to get better at my self-talk, because I know that I'm a lot more negative. I'm definitely my own worst critic for sure on everything. All high-end achievers are until we're not. So I am until I'm not. Yeah. And you could just say now, like today I started the practice of becoming, of like having more compassion and grace with myself. I'm in the process of learning how to, because you don't know what you don't know. That's why coaching is so important, because we're so blinded by things. And even for me, I tell my friends, my close friends, they'll know. And you know, your close friends, when you'll never feel judged with, you can just say whatever you need to say with. Yep. I'm like, when I start talking and I go down a rabbit hole, I'm like, cancel. Or I'll be like, I'm going uphill. And they already know what I'm talking about, because I'll start to gossip about myself, or I'll start to go into the shoulds or the criticism, because I'm human. And I'll be like, what were you saying? I'm going uphill. They just know, like, I was just going down a path, you know, because we're constantly wanting to better ourselves. And that's the thing too, of finding your inner people that are going to hold you accountable, let them know what you're working on. And the people closest to you, especially your family, I have even family, they'll have code words. So if they get heated or they get disruption, or if you're even with your business partners, because that's a relationship, come up with a code word. When things get a little carried away, or somebody's in a space, or maybe you're just something really bad happened and you're just not in a space to talk about it. Just say pineapple. Yep. I like it. Chili, was it? Chili fries? Yeah, chili fries. And like only you guys know. Sure. And you know, and then give it 24 to 48 hours, cycle back, and then like have the conversation. I love it. So like those are the people that are in your inner ecosystem, and you should still feel safe enough and respected enough that you guys respect that boundary, setting boundaries with yourself, with your like daily disciplines, but also boundaries with people, you know, communication and boundaries that only you guys know. Yeah. So whether it being like your immediate family, your like inner relationships, and even your intimate relationships are also your business partners. Totally. And your, you know, closest people. I mean, your like assistants or your executive assistants. Yeah. I mean, realistically, people spend more time with their business partners than they do with their significant others sometimes. I mean, I spend 8 hours a day with all these guys here. Yeah. So like it's a very important relationship that I think a lot of people devalue, you know, not to take away from, you know, your significant others, but it's one of your most important relationships for sure. So we've been going for like an hour and a half, which I love. And it's been action packed, but we're in a vortex. Yeah, it's good. If you could leave people with like one thing that you wish everybody knew, what would it be? Value your time and your energy. Like really value your time and your energy. I'm trying to say this without getting emotional, but my coach
Jessie Lee, who was supposed to speak
Oh my
here.
gosh. Yes.
She was supposed to speak here. She was actually my coach.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. And I finally found a woman that I considered a leader, a true leader, that resonated with me. And she passed at 34 years old a few weeks ago from malpractice, not even from her, colon cancer. And I actually did a live on this months ago that I truly believe malpractice can be prevented if people took personal responsibility in their self-care. Malpractice in your relationships, malpractice in your business, malpractice in your life. So the first thing is like when you value your time and your energy and you take that personal responsibility of your self-care, your whole outer world will change. And we don't know if we have tomorrow. We don't know if we have, like a year from now. We really don't. And, we all think we're going to live until we're like 80 or 90. And she was like 34.
Yeah. So sad.
And she was like, and you guys know she was supposed to be here.
Yeah.
So you like,
the crazy part is she was supposed to speak at, I think the previous WealthCon, but that's, she was going through some stuff and she finally was able to. And, it's so sad, but like you said, it's just time. But
she really did like live out her last year, and like that didn't stop her. Like and so when I was in her coaching calls, her enthusiasm, her joking, her humor, and we don't know what she was going through, but she never projected that into her coaching. She never projected that into, and it took, there's work behind the work. And leaders, when you guys have people that you admire, look up to, you don't know what people are going through. And people don't know what you're going through. So if you just take that personal responsibility and be like, okay, my non-negotiables, my night routine, my morning routine, my workout, taking responsibility for what I'm putting into my body and the people that I'm allowing in my inner world, what I'm pouring into with podcasts and music, even the music and the programming and music, like everything is programming. So be so intentional. And, the book that I'm writing is called Building the New. You don't have to rebuild anything, but building the new. And it's give yourself, even if you just give it, like I like to put things in increments. So if you give it like a year of just live a year on purpose with intention, it's going to change your life, like on your terms.
Totally.
Yeah. So I know I gave a lot more than just one thing.
No, that was better than what I could have asked for.
Yeah. So I think just don't take, take your time and your energy, like just like really, really value it. And take personal responsibility for how you want to feel, how you want to look, and how you want to show up in your business and in your life every single day. And just start with today.
Mic drop. That was good. So where can people find you online or connect with you?
Instagram at Tanya C. Oliver, Tanya. I have a website, tanyacoliver.com, which is also connected with the Ultimate Achievers Academy. It's my online academy. And all social platforms are Tanya C. Oliver, but I'm like the most active on Instagram and of course the website. And that's really it.
Yeah, well, that was great. We could have gone another hour and a half, but
all day.
So good.
We have the whole week.
No, we have more podcasts to come. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank
and
you.
That was great.